What an amazing festival we have lined up for you guys. It is absolutely breathtaking to see everybody back here in person after a couple of sorted years, that is for sure. My name is Mike Siona, я називаюся Михайло Цьона, і мені припадає величезний честь прибути з вами тут сьогодні як господар. It is my most esteemed privilege to serve as the master of ceremonies here. We could not have dialed up a better day, nor, in my most humble opinion, a better nationality to celebrate. Before we officially open this festival, though, I would like to welcome the founder and chair of the festival, Yuri Klufas, for a few words. Proшу.
Thank you very much, Michael. Ladies and gentlemen, we thank each and every one of you for being here with us today. That allows us to share our Ukrainian Canadian culture with all of you today. We thank most of all our delightful and wonderful Husli choir. Mr. Tadeusz, thank you very much for bringing everybody. It's great to be here in Canada. As we share our culture here in Canada, unfortunately, we remained under the cloud of the war in Ukraine. And we are here today to honor all of those that have helped Ukraine in different ways. We would like to first honor those that have helped putting at risk their own being. And it all started with the picture that we see here to my right, the famous Snake Island. And I would like to, if I may right now, to honor all of those that have helped, risking their ultimate being, but have also performed the ultimate sacrifice. Passing on back to Michael.
At this time, the Husli Ukrainian male chorus will perform a rendition of Vichnaya Pamyat, or Eternal Memory, in honor of the countless victims of the Russian invasion. There we go. Of course, as you can see, we have a wonderful stage full of dignitaries, and we are honored to be joined by a number of special guests, including government officials, community leaders, and former parade marshals of this festival. We begin with Arif Virani, a member of Parliament for Parkdale High Park, to bring greetings on behalf of the Government of Canada.
Дуже дякую. Добрий день. It is so wonderful to see so many of you here in person after 3 very long years. So thank you and вітаємо at Parkdale High Park. Thank you for being here. I'm speaking to you here on behalf of the Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau, but before that I want to speak to you a little bit about this riding. This riding is full of amazing, amazing people who are doing amazing things in what has been a very difficult year for Ukraine. It is filled with community groups, social services groups, credit unions, agencies that help settle newcomers. And I think as we mark that moment of silence for Her Majesty the Queen, and we reflect on her 70 years of service to the public of the entire Commonwealth, what I see reflected by so many amazing Ukrainian organizations in this community is that same ethos that Her Majesty tried to project and to promote. So to that I say a very heartfelt and warm thank you and дуже дякую to all of those agencies. I wanted to acknowledge that I'm here with many, many dignitaries of various levels of government. Myself representing the federal parliament, as well as Ivan Baker, who will address you shortly, and Julie Zirovitz will be speaking with you. But there are people from the municipal level, from the trustee level, from the provincial legislature. The ambassador is here, the marshals are here. Thank you so much for participating in this amazing festival and joining us today. But I know as we gather, it is with a heavy heart. This is a festival unlike many, many festivals. This is a festival, in past years I've been on the stage, we've talked about the threat that Ukraine is facing. We talked about the first invasion of Crimea and Donbass in 2014. What we reflect on now since February 24th is a second, further invasion by Vladimir Putin. An invasion that is illegal, that is unwarranted, that is unjustifiable, and that we will always oppose. We reflect on the fact that, you know, in Parliament sometimes it gets divisive, but on Ukraine it has not been divisive. Every party, every parliamentarian has stood up for Ukraine. Whether they come from Manitoba, whether they come from Bloor Street West, whether they come from Saskatchewan or the Maritimes or Vancouver. We've all stood with one voice to say, we need to provide development assistance. We need to open our doors to Ukrainians. 80,000 Ukrainians have come to Canada at this point. We need to open our wallets in terms of providing assistance. We need to provide lethal weapons to defend Ukraine, and that is what we have done. And what I will say to you is that I come to this lens as a parliamentarian, also as a human rights and constitutional lawyer. And one of the things I had the ability to do in my previous life was work on prosecuting for the United Nations things like war crimes and crimes against humanity. And what I'm reflecting on now is the news we have all been shocked by. The news that on top of Bucha, we know about Izium. And we know about the mass graves that are being uncovered there. And I say to you, and I commit to you quite openly, that as the representative of this community, as a brave defender of the Armada, as a person who will advocate to the end of his days for Ukraine, I will say to you that we will not end that advocacy until all of Ukraine is taken back, and that means Crimea and the Donbass. We will also not end the advocacy until all of those war crimes and evidence of crimes against humanity is unearthed and prosecuted, and that Putin is brought to justice. That is my commitment to you. I have with me a message from the Right Honourable Justin Trudeau. It reads, "It is with great pleasure that I welcome you and everyone to the 26th Bloor West Village Toronto Ukrainian Festival." He continues, "Where diversity is our greatest strength, the contributions of Canadians of Ukrainian descent have made and continue to make our beloved country priceless. And those contributions endure for over 130 years in this country." He notes this event falls at a difficult time. Russia's war on Ukraine is an unjust war. It is a war on freedom, on democracy, and the rights of all Ukrainians. Canada's commitment to Ukraine and its people remains steadfast, and we take this opportunity to reaffirm our unwavering support for the Ukrainian community, whose courage and strength continue to inspire people around the world. And is signed the Right Honourable Justin Trudeau. And on that note, I would say to you, and I want to hear a loud response, I say to you, Slava Ukraini! Дуже дякую.
At this time, I would like to invite Her Excellency Yulia Kovalyev, the Ambassador of Ukraine to Canada, to bring greetings from Alexander Tkachenko, Minister of Culture and Information Policy of Ukraine.
Slava Ukraini! First of all, I would like today to start with the moment of silence for those Ukrainians, for those men and women who've died in Bucha, Irpin, and now Izium. Thank you. And this festival, and it's my big pleasure and honor to be here with you today. And especially this year, this festival is very, very special for everybody of us. Courage and bravery is now the symbol of Ukraine. Our blue and yellow flag is the symbol of fight for freedom, not only for us Ukrainians, but for all of the countries around the world. And since Ukraine is fighting these days, and I'm proud to say we are successfully fighting for our freedom and for liberation of our land, we do value the support. Because our victory, and our victory with the recent 2 weeks on the front line, was a mixture of our Ukrainian strengths, our spirit, but also a big global and worldwide support of people around the world and from governments around the world. So first of all, let me thank you, our big, amazing Ukrainian community in Canada, in Toronto. You are doing a very important job. You are uniting, you are helping from the very first day of the horrific invasion. You were here, you were protesting, you were reaching to the government, you were donating, you were sending a lot of support to Ukraine. And for that I would like to thank you. I would also like to thank you for Canadian government being one of the leaders, not only since the Ukraine gained our independence, but especially when the war started, shoulder to shoulder, every time we get the support that Ukrainians need. And we do value that this support will be standing with us till our victory. And especially when Russian invasion has the aim not only to destroy Ukraine as a country, but also to destroy Ukrainian culture and Ukraine as a nation. This festival and a lot of efforts of the big Ukrainian community here in Canada to preserve and to promote Ukrainian culture, it's very important. Because as you know, Russians, and we see this many of the evidence on the occupied territories, they destroy churches, they just burn them. They destroy Ukrainian books. They push for Russian passportization and for Russian education. And it is very important now to promote and to share the Ukrainian culture around the world. And I'm happy here to see our big Ukrainian community and also our friends and allies throughout the world, the Baltic countries, Latvia, Estonia, Lithuania, Europe, France, UK, US, everybody who is standing with us. And we need not to be tired. There shouldn't be any of the war fatigue, because it's all of us together here and in many capitals of the world are doing our big job to maintain the support to Ukraine, which will help us to win this war and to restore and rebuild our beautiful Ukraine. So thank you for that. І слава Україні!
Our next speaker, the Honorable Jagmeet Singh, leader of the New Democratic Party of Canada.
Thank you, thank you. Добрий день! I hope you're doing well. As we just heard some powerful words from the ambassador, today is a very mixed day of emotions where we are celebrating Ukrainian culture, identity, music, proudly so, and I'm honored to be here on behalf of all New Democrats to share in that celebration. We also are standing in solidarity with Ukrainian brothers and sisters who are fighting in an unjust war perpetrated by Vladimir Putin, which we denounce, and we stand with Ukraine, and we stand with all of you here today. I want you to know, in this minority government, you can count on me and my team to provide any and all support possible to support in the war, but also to make sure that we receive people in this country and make sure they have the supports they need. Ukrainians that are seeking refuge should find a safe place in Canada, and it is our responsibility to make sure we welcome them, not just with wide open arms, but with the resources and supports they need. I want to acknowledge that I'm joined here as well with some of my provincial teammates for the Ontario NDP, Marit Stiles and Butila Carboche. And as stated before, this is going to take a lot of us coming together and realizing that in any time we see an unjust war against one community, one country, it's an attack against us all. And we all together must stand against that type of violence, against that type of oppression, in unity, in solidarity to defend freedom, and you can count on us to do that. Thank you so much. Slava Ukraini! Thank you.
At this time, I would invite His Worship, Mayor John Tory, to say a few words.
Добрий день! Slava Ukraini! I am so pleased to be here. I've been here every year, and it's always, as Jagmeet was just saying, a celebration of Ukrainian culture, of our community here, of everything that you represent that is good, and all the contributions that you make. But I'm especially pleased to be here this year to, once again, together with all of my colleagues from public life, and I hope you take a message from the fact that we're all here, from all parties, from all orders of government, to express our solidarity with Ukraine, with the Ukrainian people, and with the Ukrainian Canadian community here in the city of Toronto and right across Canada. You know, I want to commend the other governments for the fact that they've done so much to support Ukraine, and we've tried to do some things here. We don't have some of the same resources and the same role internationally, but we've tried very hard to make sure that your city government, and my colleague Gord Perks is here, that we have sent a number of very unmistakable signals to the Russians and to the world that we're in solidarity. And I just want to repeat them because they're things that I hope you have noticed and I hope others have noticed. When I get to the last one, I think they're noticing. But we raised the day of that atrocious invasion that has gone from bad to worse. We raised the Ukrainian flag at the Toronto City Hall. It flies there today. It will continue to fly there until the Russians go home. And it'll stay there for a while after that, just to be sure. We put up signs right in front of the Russian consulate up on St. Clair, and they said, Freedom Ukraine Square. And about the second night they were there up on the poles, somebody took them down. I'm not sure who the somebody was, but I have an idea. And I wanted those signs to be there so that when the people who work there, and I'm sure you know they're probably good people, good individual human beings, but the people who work there looked out the window every day and were reminded of the government they work for and what they were doing. And when they took them down, we simply put them back up and put them up higher. And they're still there. And I've indicated that if they ever move the consulate, we'll move the signs with them. The third thing we did was that we donated vehicles, and that's really at the behest of the ambassador, who does such a wonderful job representing Ukraine. in this country. And she and the mayor of Kyiv, which is Toronto's twin city, said that their vehicles had been destroyed by the Russians, and we've donated some vehicles, and there will be more, to Kyiv so that they can replace what has been destroyed and make sure they can look after people who need to be looked after. But the best one, I must tell you, the best one that told me we were on the right track was on the day when Premier Ford and me were banned from Russia by Putin. And sometimes in this business you don't know how to take a signal of whether you're doing something that's right. But that day I knew, and I'm sure Premier Ford knew, we were doing the right thing by making sure we were as vocal as we could be, saying no to this attack on democracy, this attack on a country that shares our democratic values, that is a part of the democratic family, and that was minding its own business when the Russians decided to invade. I had no plans to go there anyway, but it was good to be banned. So I will just say to you that we will stand in solidarity with Ukraine for as long as it takes and after that, because we were before and we will be after as a city, because we love Ukraine, we love the Ukrainian people, and we love, of course, this wonderful community here in our very own city. Slava Ukraini! Thank you for having me here today.
Сейчас я попрошу Ivan Baker. I'll invite Ivan Baker, Member of Parliament for Etobicoke Centre, to speak on behalf of the Canada-Ukraine Parliamentary Friendship Group.
Слава Україні! Я вас не чую. Слава Україні! Слава Україні! That's better. Та краще. My name is Ivan Baker. I'm the Member of Parliament for Etobicoke Centre, a colleague of Arif Irani's, but also chair of the Canada-Ukraine Parliamentary Friendship Group, which is a group of MPs of all parties in Canada's Parliament who work together to build stronger relationship between Canada and Ukraine and to support Ukraine. And as Arif said, the friendship group, the members of that friendship group, and frankly parliamentarians who aren't even part of the friendship group but are in Canada's Parliament, have been united in supporting Ukraine, and I think it's so important that continues. So I want to thank my colleagues from all parties who are here, no matter what level of government you represent, for your support of Ukraine. You know, for years we've been gathering here, ми тут збираємося тут на Bloor Street, щоб відзначити, щоб відсвяткувати нашу культуру, нашу націю. We've come here for years to celebrate our heritage, our traditions. And as we speak, that heritage, those traditions are under existential threat. And as we speak, as we stand here today, young women, young men are risking everything and sacrificing everything to defend that very heritage, to defend the very nation that we've come here to celebrate year after year. The Ukrainian people have shown tremendous courage, tremendous resolve. And I think it's fair to say that their courage and resolve has inspired people around the world. But despite that courage, the situation in Ukraine is dire. This is an existential threat for 45 million Ukrainians. It's a humanitarian crisis with 12 million people displaced and refugees throughout Europe, Canada, the United States, and around the world. But it's also a humanitarian threat for other countries. There's hundreds of millions of people around the world facing starvation right now because of Putin's invasion of Ukraine. This is a threat to our security, to global security. And when we think about the rising cost of living, the number one reason that the price of almost everything is going up is because of Vladimir Putin's invasion of Ukraine. So this is affecting people around the world. So the Ukrainian people are not just fighting for themselves, they're also fighting for us. And we need to fight for them. Now, all of you have been fighting for them, raising money, coming to see your MPs. I know that because many of you have come to see me, advocating for the government to do what's necessary. Raising money, welcoming Ukrainians who are fleeing the war, and much, much more. You've been fighting. Canada has been fighting. As Arif mentioned, we've sent $625 million in weapons, imposed countless sanctions on thousands of leaders of Russia, welcomed those refugees, provided hundreds of millions in humanitarian aid. And we can be proud of that. But you know what? It's not enough. And it won't be enough until Ukraine wins this war. Until Ukraine wins, and I mean a decisive victory, where Crimea and eastern Ukraine and Donbass and every village and every city that's part of Ukraine is once again part of Ukraine. Arif and I and others who are here, we will continue to fight for that. So let us all redouble our efforts. You redouble your fight, we'll redouble our fight, all of us on this stage. And if we do that, we will succeed. Ukraine will win. And when it does, we'll be able to come back next year and the year after, and for decades after that, here on Bloor Street, to celebrate Ukrainian heritage. Slava Ukraini!
At this time, I would like to invite Natalia Kusendova, Member of Provincial Parliament for Mississauga Centre, to bring greetings on behalf of the Government of Ontario.
Добрий день, вітаю вас. My name is Natalia Kusendova, and I'm the MPP from Mississauga Centre, which is home to a very vibrant and beautiful Ukrainian community. I'm also pleased to be joined today by my colleague, MPP Sabawi, who is the Parliamentary Assistant to the Minister of Tourism, Culture and Sport. I'd like to just take a moment to send our condolences on behalf of Ontario and Canada to the royal family on the passing of the Queen of Canada, Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. I'm very honored to be here today among so many friends and colleagues. Mr. Alexander Shevchenko, Consul General of Ukraine, Mr. Petros Churchin, the President of the Ukrainian Canadian Congress, Ambassador Yulia Kovalev, thank you so much for being here. And I also see my good friend, very good friend of Ukraine, but also a good friend of mine, Mrs. Magdalena Pszczółkowska, the Consul General of Poland with us today. And why I think it's very important to underline that so many nations stand with Ukraine, not only Canada, but also, as some of you may know, my background is Polish. And I'm very proud of my Polish-Canadian roots. And you know, I have to reflect on the fact that as a young girl, I've come to this festival for many, many years, maybe for the last 10 years or so. Because the Polish festival, as you know, is just down the street, and we always used to go to the Polish festival and then to come and see our friends at the Ukrainian festival. But you know, as I was driving down this morning, I was really reflecting on the fact that today, in 2022, this festival has a complete different tone and completely different meaning. Why? Because on February 24th, 2022, Russia invaded Ukraine. For me, as a young Canadian, and as a young Canadian of Polish heritage, this was a monumental event. Because, you know, just like MP Baker often invokes his grandfather, my grandmother used to tell me stories, and my grandmother is 91 and she lives in Poland, about 40 kilometers from the Ukrainian border. She told me the stories of World War II and how she was held at gunpoint at 7 years old by the Russian Soviet soldiers. And so it's a miracle that I'm here today, but having to reflect on that history and how we are so interconnected in Europe, but also here, because so many of us came to Canada looking for a better future for our families and for our children. We all have to stand shoulder to shoulder with the people of Ukraine. So that's why I'm also proud that we have representatives of the Polish community here, including Władysław Lizon, who is the president of the Polish Canadian Congress. And I want to congratulate all of you, the volunteers, the youth that are here today, because it's so important that today, at a time of turmoil, you stand up proudly and show your Ukrainian colors. I had the opportunity to travel to Warsaw with the Canadian Medical Assistance teams back in March, in my capacity as a registered nurse. And we were able to establish a medical mission right at the border crossing between Poland and Ukraine. And you know, I have to tell you that flying into Warsaw and seeing those Ukrainian colors, the blue and yellow everywhere, all the streets of Warsaw, was such a phenomenal feeling. And really seeing that civic engagement of the Polish citizens welcoming people into their homes. There's about 4 million newcomers in Poland currently living from Ukraine. So I think it's really, really important that we continue supporting our good friends as they make their way here to Canada. And that's why it's so important as well that through the leadership of Premier Doug Ford and the entire cabinet and caucus, we were so proud to provide many, many supports to the newcomers that are still coming every single week to Canada, settling in my city of Mississauga. You know, I know at the St. Mary Ukrainian Church, Father Pankiv, every week he welcomes about 40 new Ukrainian families. And these families need our help. They need our support, not only financial support to be able to establish their lives, to get good jobs, get access to healthcare, access to education, but they also need our moral support. And that is why it's so amazing to see all of you here today as we continue to work hand in hand and support the people of Ukraine. So today I just wanted to conclude by saying one thing. I wore this shirt on purpose, and this is the shirt of Ukraine and Poland together. And the colors of Poland are white and red, but also the colors of Canada are white and red. So this shirt for me has a dual meaning, because we must all stand together in support of Ukraine. And I'm also reminded at 2014 when Prime Minister Harper said to Putin, "Get out of Ukraine." And that message needs to keep on coming. So thank you so much. Slava Ukraini. And my colleague MPP Sabawi will deliver the message from Premier Ford.
Thank you very much, Natalia. Hello and welcome everyone to Bloor West Village Toronto Ukrainian Festival. People from around the world have been coming to our great province for generations to find opportunity and raise families. Ontario is proud to be home to more than 375,000 people of Ukrainian origin. This festival is an opportunity for the Ontarians of all backgrounds to enjoy Ukrainian culture, dance, cuisine, and art, right here in one of the Toronto's most vibrant neighborhoods. Kudos to the Bloor West Village BIA and all the volunteers for the time, energy, and creativity they have invested in making this one of the biggest and the most anticipated Ukrainian festival in North America. In the midst of these festivities, I want to reiterate our support for the people of Ukraine as they continue to fight to defend their nation. Ontarians may have roots in many parts of the globe, but we all share a respect for freedom and democratic values. Have a wonderful time at the festival. Signed, Premier Doug Ford. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Butila Karpoche, member of Provincial Parliament for Parkdale High Park.
Hello, good afternoon, Dobry den. I'm Butila Karpoche, MPP for Parkdale High Park, and I'm joined by my colleague, Marit Stiles, MPP for Davenport, our neighbors to the east. And we bring you greetings and solidarity on behalf of Peter Tabbins, leader of the Ontario NDP, and our entire Ontario NDP caucus. To all of you here today and over this weekend, I want to say welcome and thank you for coming, for being here. I think all of you understand how important it is that we celebrate Ukrainian culture, Ukrainian heritage, Ukrainian identity, that we recognize the Ukrainian spirit, the resolve, strength, and the courage of the Ukrainian people every year, but particularly this year. Here in Parkdale High Park, we are proud to be home to the Ukrainian Festival, which is the largest not only in Canada but across North America. And we are prouder to have always stood alongside our Ukrainian neighbors, and we will continue to stand in solidarity with the Ukrainian people now and always. Thank you very much.
At this time, I would like to invite Gordon Perks, Councillor for Parkdale High Park.
Thank you very much. Madam Ambassador, members of the Platform Party, everyone who's here today. I want to begin by acknowledging this community that we're in, Bloor West Village. Everything in Bloor West Village was built with Ukrainian hands. The shops, the neighborhoods, the home that we have made to one of the largest Ukrainian communities anywhere in North America. And I want to thank the Ukrainian community in Canada for the gift of Bloor West Village and this community we have built together. Toronto prides itself on being a community of communities, on being a place where people from around the world, anywhere in the world, can come, make a life, make a neighborhood, make a community. And that's a debt that we all owe each other here in Toronto. It is the essence of what Toronto is, that sense of solidarity. And now, more than ever, all of us who are Torontonians are being called on to repay that debt, to stand in solidarity with the people of Ukraine in their terrible struggle against the criminal and unjust war set on them by the Russians. We as Torontonians stand for peace, we stand for solidarity, we stand for community, we stand for the generosity of spirit that I've seen in this neighborhood over the last years, walking around meeting people who have taken Ukrainian refugees into their homes, help them settle here, help them build new lives, help them get established, but most importantly, help all Ukrainians to know that the world is with them. It's in neighborhoods like this that we show the solidarity that allows the people of Ukraine to stand up and to continue the fight against the criminal Russian war. Toronto, as I said, owes a debt to your community, and we will pay that debt. We will continue to support Ukrainians, both here and in their struggle at their home. All of us must remember that the lesson of Toronto is that solidarity and justice and peace is a universal value that we carry across the globe and that we support each other in. Slava Ukrainia!
В цей час я попрошу Олександру Хитці, President of the Ukrainian Canadian Congress, to bring greetings.
Дякую. Я хочу в свою чергу запросити нашу цілу команду Конгресу українців Канади, щоб зі мною стали. Прошу. До нас підходять пан Тарас Багрій, президент Онтарійського відділу. Також пан Петро Штурин десь тут був, не знаю, чи він відійшов на хвильку. І член нашої екзекутиви, заступниця президента Ганя Шептур і наш виконавчий директор Ігор Михальчишин. Дорога громадо, від імені Конгресу я вас всіх вітаю на цьогорічному фестивалю. Також маю честь передати привіт від заступниці прем'єра Канади Христі Фріланд, яка не могла бути з вами сьогодні, тому що уряд Канади в жалобі з приводу смерті королеви Єлисавети. Вічна її пам'ять. Friends, today is a bittersweet day. While we are very happy to be together again in person, our joy is dampened by the knowledge that our homeland is at war and that our brothers and sisters continue to pay the ultimate price for defending the freedom and democracy that we all value. In the past, at this festival, we rejoiced, but this year we remember. We remember that despite recent military gains by the indefatigable Ukrainian army, investigators are uncovering even more evidence of war crimes and genocide left by the fleeing Russians in their wake. We remember the civilians who have died, many of them having tortured by the invading army. We remember the soldiers who have died, who are being held as prisoners of war by a regime that does not respect the Genocide Geneva Convention. We remember the millions who have been forcibly deported to Russia, including our national treasure, our children. And just like in 9/11, we all remember the moment where we were on February 24th and what we were doing when we first heard that the Russian Federation had escalated the war that began in 2014 to a full-scale genocidal blitzkrieg that was designed to wipe Ukraine and its people off the face of the earth. Today, it is the 206th day of war. Ukraine is not only standing, it is winning a war against the most feared army in the world. And Ukrainians have demonstrated that even in the face of a devastating war, they preserve their democratic institutions and traditions. They observe not only the rule of law, they observe the law of war. And this is in sharp contrast to the tyranny and criminality of the neighboring Russian terrorists. Knowing what they do, the members of the United Nations must act on their responsibility to prevent genocide. And I know that our allies will not stop assisting Ukraine until every last invader is driven out of Ukraine. На жаль, найкращі сини та доньки України вже не вперше беруться за зброю на захист своєї батьківщини. Вони вкотре показують світові, що український дух незламний, а стійкість українського народу продовжує надихати весь світ. Now, there have been times in our history where Ukraine felt forgotten, perhaps betrayed. During the Holodomor of 1932-33, in Yalta at the end of World War II, and even in 2014 when it seemed that the West didn't really understand the utter evil of the Soviet Union and now its successor state, Russia. But today we are grateful that the Western allies stand with us and that Canada and Canadians stand with us. In the first days of the full-scale invasion of Ukraine, we were consumed with horror and grief. Your support made our grief a little bit easier to bear. We are so grateful to have friends around the world who understand that Ukrainians are fighting for the democratic principles that we all share. The United States, the United Kingdom, Latvians, Lithuanians, Estonians, the people of Poland, and all of Ukraine's neighbors understand that they cannot and will not let Ukraine fall. And here at home, we are grateful to our Canadian friends. In the first days of the war, our phones did not stop ringing. You were as horrified as we were at the war crimes that we saw on our televisions every night. You cried with us, but then you leaped into action. You offered donations from humanitarian aid to our Ukrainian humanitarian appeal. You began to welcome displaced persons coming from Ukraine as they arrived in Canada. You opened your hearts and your homes. Because we are a nation of people who have all endured our own individual form of hell, we help those who are in need. So thank you to the Sikh community, the Italians, the Chinese, the Coptic, and so many other communities who did not stand idly by. For this, Ukrainians and Ukrainian Canadians are forever grateful. And we will not forget the sacrifice of a French Canadian, Émile Antoine Roy-Sirois, who lost his life helping the women of children of Ukraine. His memory will be eternal because in Ukraine, heroes never die. Герої не вмирають. І величезна подяка нашій українській громаді. Так як під час Помаранчевої революції та Революції Гідності, українці Канади сьогодні стоять поруч зі своїми українськими братами та сестрами. Тиждень за тижнем ви виходите на демонстрації, ви відповідаєте на наші заклики до дії і ви не здаєтеся. Our Stand With Ukraine committee now has representatives across Canada, from Newfoundland to the Yukon. And just as previous generations of Ukrainian Canadians have done, we are welcoming those who have been displaced by war. But with God's help, the war will end, families will be reunited, and together we will rebuild a bigger and stronger Ukraine. Slava Ukraini!
This is the first time that our festival has a satellite location, literally the lighthouse at number 1 Yonge Street. For 4 days there was an immersive presentation of the devastation of the war that was being presented throughout the time of the festival at that location. So we invite all of you at some point to tell your friends and yourself to visit that over and above your visit to our location here. Now we are coming to, I guess, the sort of opening climax that we try to have here every year, which is the cutting of the ribbon, where we introduce some of our parade marshals, where we introduce this year's parade marshal. But first of all, I'd like to invite up to the stage a beautiful choir from Calgary that will be holding our ribbon here. It's a dance group, I'm sorry. Dance group, Terezu. So proszę, please, yeah, come out here so we can see you. And now, before we introduce this year's parade marshal, I'd like to introduce parade marshals from before. We have 2 of them here today, regularly invited. There's Victor Malarick, and there's Mr. Timerte. Mr. Malarick helps us with making sure that we're on television screens and media all over the country. And Mr. Timerte makes sure we have a stage to talk from. Thank you very much, Mr. Timerte. Thank you very much, Mr. Malarick. So please stand here in the middle. And now we introduce this year's parade marshal, Mr. Marcus Kolga. Please stand in between these 2 lovely gentlemen. So now I have to read this because there's a lot of information about Mr. Marcus Kolga, and I do not want to, how do I say, make it incorrect. Mr. Marcus Kolga is an international award-winning documentary filmmaker, journalist, digital communication strategist, and a leading Canadian expert on Russian and Central and Eastern European issues. Yeah, let's clap, please. He is a focus on communications and media strategies as tools of foreign policy and defense, and continues to write commentary for national and international media, including the Globe and Mail and the Toronto Star. He frequently comments on Russian, Eastern, and Central European issues on North American radio and television, and at foreign policy conferences. Marcus is involved with international human rights organizations and national political ones. In 2008, he spearheaded an effort to make August 23rd the anniversary of the infamous Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, a Canadian National Day of Remembrance for the European victims of Nazism and communism, to be called Black Ribbon Day. Marcus drafted a parliamentary resolution that was introduced and passed by the Honourable Bob Rae. In 2015, Marcus was awarded the Estonian Order of the White Star by President Toomas Hendrik Lives. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Marcus Kolga. Members of the communities, you were supposed to be standing here, not moving back. Please come back where you were standing before. Thank you very much. So now please, let's have every one of you please grab a little piece of this ribbon of solidarity with Ukraine. And I think we have members of the oh, Angela, here you are. Thank you for joining us. The BIA and our cultural community that Mr. Perks so eloquently mentioned a little earlier. I even have scissors. Voila. Yeah, so please, how about Victor and James, please hold on to the scissors also. And please have a close-up of the camera for what's going on here. And we now celebrate and announce the 26th annual Bloor West Village, Toronto Ukrainian Festival Open. Once again, we thank our past parade marshals, our communities of solidarity, our roots, the BIA, and the fact that we are Canada and can host the beautiful Trezub dancers from Calgary. We pass the microphone back on to Mr. Mike Siona.
We are set to begin it in true Ukrainian fashion with a Privit. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Trezub Ukrainian Dance Ensemble from Calgary, Alberta, performing their traditional Privit welcome dance. Вітаємо! До 26-го західне село Bloor, Український фестиваль Toronto. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once more to the 26th annual Bloor West Village Toronto Ukrainian Festival. Я називаюся Михайло Цьона, і мені припадає величезний честь прибути з вами цілий weekend. I'll be here today, I'll be here tonight, and I'll be here tomorrow. So let's enjoy the festival. Before we continue, we have one more announcement from the man himself, Pan Yuri Klufas.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Siono. Thank you very much for being here. I know you're going to be here for every one of the next 3 days. I would like to bring to your attention this painting that's at the front of the stage and its significance. You may remember that the Putin plan was 3 days and the party's over for Ukraine. As it turned out, there were two famous moments that turned things around. The first moment was the president of Ukraine, Mr. Zelensky, saying, and unequivocally, "I do not need a ride, I need ammunition." The second moment was the Snake Island motion. I don't know if our cameraman can see, bring this in closer. It's the famous finger moment. And with F standing for something else. This painting is brought to us at this festival by the Rodina Veseloho Family Foundation. There is a huge backdrop of this, a media wall of this that is at the festival. It will be at the corner of the Ukrainian Credit Union here, Armadale and Bloor, and at the Second Front Pavilion throughout the other days. So you can come by and take your picture with this backdrop hugely beside you, and you can add your finger to this picture. So we invite all of you and wanted you to know the significance of this. So thank you very much. Thanks for joining us. And back to great Mike Siona from Saskatchewan.
Дякую, thank you very much, Yuri. Which finger should we use? Never mind. We'll figure it out. I bet only one of them fits. Nonetheless, before we do begin this afternoon's entertainment, and do we have a show boiled up for you here, we want to remind you that we do have 3 stages this year. The Temerty Foundation stage right here at Jane Street. We also have the community stage at Runnymede and a busker stage on Dury Street North. So have a stroll down to the other side of the festival. There is so much to eat and drink and buy and immerse yourself within the culture and cultures that are present here this weekend. Shop the Bloor West Village BIA sidewalk sale throughout the weekend. And of course, should you be inclined to learn how to Ukrainian dance, there will be a Teach Me to Dance session today at 3 p.m. at the busker stage at Dury Street North. So you can watch a little dancing and then make sure you stretch it out before you try. I would show you something, but the pants would rip, so забудьте. Just not going to happen. Now, as we have mentioned and continue to mention here, throughout the festival, gratitude is key, and it is paramount and central to all of this, especially as we look at all of the countries, communities, and organizations and individuals who have continued to stand steadfast with Ukraine during this terrible, terrible invasion. And so it is in that vein that we begin with our first performers, the Vanguard Marching Band. The Ukrainian Youth Ensemble's Vanguard Concert and Marching Band, under the direction and musical director and conductor of Pan Roman Yasinski, is an educational artistic ensemble in the Greater Toronto area. It functions to preserve the ideals of Ukrainian musical culture. The repertoire of the band includes a variety of Ukrainian music, religious, folk, classical, and contemporary. The band itself has traveled extensively throughout Canada, the United States, and Europe. The Vanguard Concert Marching Band consists of 3 distinct sections: the Concert and Marching Band, the Color Guard, and the Junior Drum Corps. The band uniform is regarded with great respect. The stylization and colors of the uniform are symbolic of the military band traditions throughout Ukrainian history. And ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, we'll turn them over, as mentioned, under the direction of musical director and conductor Pan Roman Yasinski, the Vanguard Marching Band.
Go!